What an entrance with that music. I got to live up to that now. Hello, all. I'm Christina CURATO with EXXONMOBIL. I am the Sustainability Manager for Proxxima, sharing the stage with my good friend Mike. We'll hear a lot more from him in just a moment. So I'm very excited to be here. Wonderful to see this show come to life in just the last week and all of the showcases of innovation that came out. I think it's a great representation of how all the value chain has come together to collaborate, and it's quite incredible. We love to be a part of this, and this is quite exciting for us. If you visited our booth, or maybe you heard my colleague talk already, you might be on this journey for years with us. You already know that we have a polyolefin thermoset technology, and which is rooted in Nobel Prize-winning technology. And we're pretty excited about talking about that today. So I'm not going to cover a ton about the product itself. We're pretty much going to talk a lot about the sustainability benefits of the product today. So without further ado, or actually I want to make one comment before I go on. I didn't cover it in my slides, and I think it's important to reference with this team. So we acquired Materia 2 years ago, and in these 2 years, we're actually been working very hard to bring global scale. And so we've debottlenecked an asset, we're continuing to debottleneck an asset, and then we're gonna also, we already broke ground on a new endeavor. And so really this is showing our commitment to this product, and it's showing our commitment to this industry. And to further show that commitment, we're going to talk to you today about a study that was conducted, and it went through a rigorous review. And it really gives an insight on what we could potentially do to help our value chain partners with their sustainability goals. So before, any further ado, I'm going to go directly to the results of that study. And so some people might have already seen this on the stage yesterday. You might have seen it, in our booth. I welcome all the pictures. Go ahead, you can do it. So ultimately, we commissioned a third party, Sphera, to look at the carbon footprint of our product. And more specifically, we're looking at the carbon footprint of our product with a lot of comparative thermosets. So you can see epoxy, polyurethane, vinyl esters. And so ultimately what we're really working to understand here is and you can see it on this slide, it's really truly just a cradle to gate footprint. So that's the scope. And we're also only looking at one impact category, which is the carbon footprint. And so ultimately we commissioned Sphera, and this is in accordance to the ISO 14067. It's also very important for us to mention that this is measured, the impact per liter. Why did we choose per liter? I think some people might have that question. A lot of times it's per kg. We looked at it really on an application basis. And more specifically, we looked on it from like a wind blade comparison. And so you'll see in later slides, we have a bit of a density. And so we wanted to make sure to take that into account. But even without that, you can see the advantage of our product. So ultimately, let's talk about the data. So Sphera used multiple different data sources. Ultimately, they brought in expert experiences. They brought in a lot of, essentially the GABI database. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are familiar with that. It's now come up with a new name. And we used LCA FE10 data. So all three of these sources were utilized to confirm the superior carbon footprint of this impact category versus our competitors. So you can see this on this slide. Ultimately, Proxxima, our resin system, has a carbon footprint of roughly 60% lower than a very comparable epoxy resins. So I think it's also important to know, I'm spending a lot of time on this slide, I know, but it's truly important for you to know that ExxonMobil really has a core value of accurate and transparent reporting. So we believe in providing a comprehensive information package to empower informed decisions. So therefore, we encourage you to take pictures. We encourage you to go to this QR code. You can dive into the full executive summary that's fully transparent. It's important to emphasize for you to conduct your own due diligence and data and look into the methodology. So this is important to us because it ensures transparency, but also fosters a deeper collaboration between us, and it helps us really understand how we can help you and the value chain partners achieve your goals. So we'll have questions after this, and I can almost probably end my slides here because I know that was a lot of information, but it's actually very important for me to show you a very well-rounded view of our product and how it can provide benefit to you. So I'm going to kind of expand the conversation here for a second on this next slide. So I'm going to go ahead and run these videos in the background just so that you can see them as they go here. So ultimately, some of you might have already seen this as well, but we have an extremely low viscosity and we have a very fast controllable cure. In fact, we have some products that actually have a latent cure as well. So it's a customized cure. So the question really on this slide is, what are these performance benefits going to do for you and specifically in your production emissions? So just kind of raising that question. So how many times faster, if we filled the mold twice as fast, would you notice the impact in your process? If we did it 3 times as fast, at what point do you recognize the benefit? So if you've been to our booth, we're showcasing a resin formulation that's 10 times as fast as the direct comparable epoxy. And the video that I'm showing you right here is 20 times faster than the comparable epoxy. And so the question really lies, what does that do for your process? And what advantage does that bring to your company? It's the same with the snap cure that you saw here. We're 50 to 70% faster. And so again, what does that do for your cycles, your cycle time? What does that do for your production economics? What does that do for your emissions? We are actually truly fortunate to collaborate with some of the most innovative minds. I want to tell you about one of them. Showcased just outside this room that we're in is some composite rebar. So a good friend of ours, his name is Eric. He's the CEO of Novocus, and he has taken this chemistry and he's pushed it to the edge. And he's taken full advantage of this fast cure that I just showed you and full advantage of that viscosity that I just showed you. And he's now making composite rebar at 75 meters a minute, 75 meters a minute compared to the 6 or 15 of the traditional. And so what that really does, it brings that cost down substantially, and he can compete with black steel in the flat work market. So that's just one great example of how this chemistry can really be taken down the value chain and bring additional innovation to additional markets. So before I leave this slide, the question I ultimately have for you is, can you be like Eric? Can you maximize the value of your process through this novel technology? All right, move along here. So we just talked about some of the carbon footprint benefits. We talked some about the chemistry of the product and what that could do for your process and your process emissions. Here I'm going to talk about the performance. I'm actually not going to focus too much on the performance because some of you might have seen my colleague's presentation the other day, which included videos. We also have some plaques on display, at our booth. But ultimately, everybody wants to have that wonderful trifecta of, a lower cost, in process, higher performing with a great sustainability message is what we have here. We also have some data, some really good flex fatigue data that we would love to share if you're interested. Ultimately, the question I have on this slide is, what does this lower weight product potentially bring for you, for your customers, without having to compromise any of the fatigue or any of the durability? How does that help your value chain? How does that help your logistics? So I'd be remiss to not mention end of life as a part of this conversation. And so I'm actually very excited to tell you about our advanced recycling technology that EXXONMOBIL has, and to share with you that we're evaluating the Proxxima product within this technology, but we're also evaluating other mixed plastics and scraps from infusion, including the tapes and such. And so this is a really novel process I would love to tell you more about, but really what does it better is actually the video. So I'm going to pause for a second and we're going to watch this video to learn some more.
The plastic is delivered to our Baytown complex, where we are operating one of the largest advanced recycling facilities in North America. A truck feeds the shredded plastics directly into a large silo in a unit at our integrated petrochemical complex. The plastic is run through a dust collector, where impurities are removed, and then moves into a tank where it is mixed with hydrocarbon liquids. The plastic in the mixture is further shredded into smaller particles before being sent through heat exchangers, where it is warmed up to improve its viscosity. The mixture then enters a reactor, where we use heat to break the plastic down into molecules such as ethane and naphtha. These molecules are then combined with other feed streams throughout our facility to be made into a variety of critical products. Through advanced recycling, we can provide customers with certified circular plastics. Our process is verified by a third party called ISCC, whose mass balance accounting is a way to connect the dots between the plastic waste we process and the certified circular plastics we then sell.
So that's just a brief overview. And again, we like to be very transparent. I would encourage you to go look at this process, look at the aspirations that we have. We have it here on the slide, but ultimately we have big aspirations in this space as well, getting to 500 KTA of advanced recycling capacity by the end of 2026. And this has a global footprint. So we're actually quite excited about this. So this next slide, I have attempted to really cover, a bit of what we've talked about today. So one thing that we all know is change is hard. And even though this is a very compelling case for Proxxima, the question is it worth the hassle? At what point would you consider moving from your current thermoset to Proxxima? And so this is my attempt to kind of give a little bit of an overview of what we talked about today. Of course, we're very excited about the carbon footprint data that's been heavily scrutinized and very transparent. And again, encourage you to go look at that data. The next couple of bullet points is how fast is fast enough? How quick of a cure would be really worth transitioning? How fast of filling a mold? If you have double the throughput out of your facility, what does that mean for you? Is that worth the hassle of the change? And then continuing on, we haven't talked so much about the reduction of weight, but 5% reduction, 15% reduction without compromising any of the fatigue and potentially enhancing the fatigue. Is that worth it? Is that enough? So going really to the last one, I really do want to make the point that I don't think one end-of-life solution is enough. And we are actually doing a lot of work right now and opening up multiple choices for our partners. At this point, we're not ready to talk about those choices, but we're very excited about that opportunity. And so even in isolation of that, is this advanced recycling potential enough? So I started our conversation a bit about the value chain collaboration that I see in this industry and in this show, and we're very excited about that. I think the one thing I really want to make sure that you know is we have big goals and we have big aspirations, and we want to grow globally, but we can't do that without you. And so the question is, do you want to come on this journey with us? Is this enough of a compelling case for you to look at that change? And as a part of that, we wanted to introduce you to my friend Mike. And Mike's going to talk about how this product is really transforming his business. I think there might be one more.
Great, thank you. There you go. Thank you very much, Christina. And it's really a privilege to talk about this technology today. And to begin with, when we talk about sustainability and a lens of sustainability, you need to consider it from a triple bottom line perspective. So you're talking about the environmental benefits, you're talking about the economic benefits, and you're talking about the societal benefits. And so one of the beauties of composites is that they bring many times those triple bottom line results. I think in many cases it's been heavily on the environmental improvements, or it's been on the societal improvements, making bridges last longer. But the economic aspect of it has to be there, and that has to be a critical component for us to move forward. And so I think one of the exciting parts of this is it addresses, in our assessment, the Proxxima technology and the scaling that Exxon brings to this. It brings the economy of scale, and it brings the potential to grow, not just for a company like McLaren, but for those that are in the composites industry worldwide. So I wanted to share a little bit about my background and the experience that I have, kind of progressively across the first starting in the resins that I've worked with. Again, not in a lot of detail, but polyester, vinyl ester, epoxy systems, which all of those have been very, very promising and successful technologies over the years. But as we move down the road, one of the things we saw is the increasing need for decarbonization. And so we'll talk a lot about that today in the discussions that I've got. Also, the other comment I wanted to make is you don't do this in a vacuum. You have to have this experience in organizations like ACMA or USHA, or in the case SAMPE and others. This is where these concepts and technology transfer opportunities occur. And so JEC is a great platform to not only bring companies together, but bring those different associations from around the world together to work on these issues. On top of that, I've had a lot of background in the different processes associated with it, and some different avenues and market segments that these technologies and chemistries have gone into. And that's helped to formulate a point of view for me as well as we move forward and look at the strategies. And then finally, my specific work with high purity dicyclopentadiene and dicyclopentadiene more broadly in resin production, in the production of other specialty chemicals, in production of military fuels. It gives a lot of specific knowledge that I had. So in collaboration, whether it was our original partners with Telling, or working now in expanding our growth ambitions with Exxon, it brought a lot of data to the table automatically. So McLaren, I won't go into a lot of detail because I want to get to some of the projects and the ambitions that we have in terms of growth. But as we rebranded around the concept of composites any way, shape, or form. So we're roughly a $100 million business. We have 3 locations in the United States. We support all of North America, but we also do some export business as well. In building this out, when we rebranded a few years ago, we focused on the idea that sustainability, it was not just about whether you could make profit in sustainability. I think the challenge or the question for us is, can we make profit without it? And so in the segments that we are serving, we'll talk about in more detail, things like hydrogen bus, EV bus, rail, mass transit of that type, electrification of heavy truck, construction equipment and electrification, those segments. We recognize increasingly that we have to make more progress on sustainability, or even composites stand to be deselected. So as we built our manifesto, we really built it around the idea of decarbonizing the built environment, improving circularity, driving a more sustainable footprint. So it's woven into the brand manifesto. It's who McLaren is and what our promise to the industry and to society is. Market-facing strategies. So, when you look at a purpose-driven organization, you usually start with, a vision, mission, values, and that type of thing. And so similarly, if you have a manifesto and you have a purpose, you're purpose-led, and you essentially organize around that central purpose of decarbonizing mobility in the built environment. And this is a critical thing. We know this is important to our customers. We absolutely know that. And we know it's important to society critically. So this is part of how we organize around a purpose-driven organization. And then instead of having traditional mission statements, these are market-facing strategies. So they're in a way, they're a mission statement, but they're focused very specifically on a variety of things. So if we're focused on mobility, we've got some particular characteristics we need to attack. If we're looking at the built environment, there are different needs. But by and large, when we have things like advanced reducing the footprint, not just carbon, but of emissions in general. Styrene, other chemistries that we work with all have their types of emissions. We want to address those as well. So what we found with this platform with Proxxima is a way for us to begin to address the full continuum of the triple bottom line. So we could get to the economic performance, we could get to the environmental performance, and we could bring products to society at scale that would address the needs of our customers and the markets that we serve. The two, when we built our culture as part of it, I joined McLaren as part of a turnaround. So we need to change the culture a little bit in order to drive winning performance. And so we focused on two sets of principles. One, and these are similar to values, but principles really should be unchanging versus values, which can be subject to change based on conditions, et cetera. So human action principles are really about how we work with each other, how we work and interface with others. And I highlighted 3 of the 11. We have 11 of each: optimism, contribution, motivation, and innovation and creative destruction. And so I highlight those because that's what we saw in this context. Like, we believe that we have the materials available to make an impact and change the trajectory of mobility and the built environment. I think that with the entrance of EXXONMOBIL, it offers a significant scaling to the resin systems that are already out there, and with their capabilities, we can grow a lot. Contribution, motivation, it's about we've got to start by putting in. We can't wait for what's in it for us. We know what the market needs. We are listening to our customers, and we need to start now and start that journey, as Christina said. The innovation, creative destruction, we've got to invent our new future. Market action principles, wanted to highlight paradigm of abundance. The idea that there's enough for everybody. There's enough opportunity for growth with everyone. There's enough materials available, enough innovation and good ideas out there. We start there, and then we've got the idea of building out these capabilities, the virtuous cycle of building capabilities and getting new opportunities from those as well. And finally, as I mentioned, we share the innovation, creative destruction, both in market and in human action. But we want to develop supply chain advantages and joint development. That's a big part of open innovation and what we're doing. Market engagement, market intelligence, this is how we build our point of view. So we're not doing this in a vacuum. We're not working in a skunk works type of environment. We're out there in an open innovation environment with partners at GEC and CAMEX in associations in order to drive that. In differentiation, I won't go through all of these, but I wanted to highlight advanced product quality planning. There are tools in place that we can use right now to address the potential of sustainability. We don't have to invent new processes. There's plenty of interesting design for sustainability. Other things are out there, but the fundamental things that we do every day, whether we're working in aerospace or automotive or wind, APQP is a great example. Like, if you apply those same strategies, the same paradigm, the same structure, and you apply it to the challenge of sustainability, you start with planning and resources, you work through product design, process design, validation, feedback and assessment. It's like any other plan, do, check, act loop. And it's there. Most of us know how to do this, but we look at sustainability and we're perplexed at how to attack it. Management systems are critical. It's hard for you to do this unless you're committed to measurement, verification, auditing, and really challenging yourself to see if you're doing what you're saying you're doing. We use EcoVadis. Most of you are familiar with that. That's a big part of our customers' world. We also use DNV. Again, many of those in aerospace, wind, no DNV, but we use it in an integrated management system with quality, health, safety, and environment all in one particular system. So as you can see, the different ISO standards that are addressed within ISRS, which is the DNV platform, this is a way that we can know that we're working on things with validity. And they cover a wide spectrum of the business processes in our company. Really, almost no market doesn't touch them. In terms of the markets that we've served, I've talked about mobility, the built environment, but if we break those down into the segments, we've got rail, heavy truck, we've got bus, and we throw RV in there because they have similar type of parts in many cases. And then we have a military application. So all of these are large and complex parts, but they also require scale in order to get to the demands and the needs of society. On the built environment, we have energy, we have aerial lift and platforms. This is changing how we build things. These types of equipment, telescoping, telehandlers, aerial work platforms, changes the way we build. Infrastructure, components, and construction equipment, that's all part of our segment. This is our geographic position. It's not as critical for this discussion, but we were able to serve North America with that setup. As I described, the dimensions of our business and our ability to work in composites in any way, shape, or form. And probably this, I'll wrap up on this as we're running low on time, but the concept of this strategic shift, this is a journey. This is a transition. We're doing this driven by things like the carbon footprint, the cradle-to-gate characteristics of these technologies, which are advantage to us. We're doing it relative to the circularity, the ability and the promise and potential for recovery of these materials by bringing it through advanced recycling. But it's also part of the economic benefits. So by moving faster, by in cases infusing 4 times faster, or a more successful molding process, we have seen in one of our product launches something that took us 12 people over 20 to 22 days a month. We can produce the same amount of molded parts in about 3 days with 2 shifts and 4 people per shift. So it's a dramatic improvement in our productivity. And we know with workforce challenges and other challenges in the marketplace, we need to start to do some things differently. You'll have access to the slides. There's a number of different design considerations that are really vital in terms of looking at the materials, but in the interest of time, we won't go through it. But we're basically, as I summarized in sort of our promotion, tougher, faster, stronger, and better at resisting a lot of corrosion and impact and things of that nature. So we feel really good with where this product takes us from a performance basis, but it's really the full continuum of cradle to gate, the performance and the cost in use, as well as the potential for circularity. So that's what I wanted to share today.
Yeah, it's a really great example of a collaboration across the value chain to maximize the value that we're bringing. So we'll be available for questions. It looks like we ran out of time just around this corner. I also have a lot of colleagues that would love to talk to you. Also come to our booth. We're in 5M102, and I think you're
6Q62.
Yeah. So thank you all.
Thank you very much.